It's never too early to look at the standings in Major League Baseball. Yes, there is a long season, 162 games, and most teams only threw about 5 of those games so far. But it's time to take the temperature from that early week start here. I'm Donnie Rightside, he's Joe Raineri. We're going to dip into some Major League Baseball right now. No team hotter on the planet right now than the 5-0 New York Yankees. If we take a look at the American League East, they're 5-0. The Orioles are 3-1, Red Sox at 3-2, and then the Blue Jays and the Tampa Bay Rays pulling up the rear at 2-3. Let's start here with the Yankees, because if you're looking from a seasonal perspective, you saw right away, oh no, 4 games down in Houston here. Let's hope, Joe Raineri, we can win 2 of those 4 games at least and move on. 1-3 won't be the worst case scenario, but 0-4, we can't have that. The Yankees go 4-0 in that series. Then you say, okay, well, where are we going after that? You're going to stay on the road and take on the National League champions from last year, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and pick up another victory there. Love what I see so far. Run differential plus 13 through those 5 games, and the Yankees with a 5-0 start to start the season here, Joe.
Yeah, and it's how they're doing it. And maybe we're burying the lead with that win last night, because did you guys watch Luis Gil pitch? I mean, this is a kid, 25-year-old kid that was, missed last year, right? Tommy John surgery, comes in during spring training and absolutely dominates. He goes out as the 5th star last night. He works 4 2/3 inning. Donnie, they weren't even close. They weren't even coming close to hitting his fastball there. Upper 90s, hit 100. I mean, just filthy stuff. So if he is another piece into this, because we know we're missing Cole, we know they can score runs, Donnie. We know the middle relief there, that bullpen is going to be one of the best in Major League Baseball. They're already in midseason form. But my goodness, if you can get some of these younger guys to step up like Luis Gil and keep them healthy this year, then now we're talking a different projection for the New York Yankees. Even though they're 5-0, we all know that could change in a heartbeat. But that was pretty impressive last night.
Could they go 162-0 is the question right now for Yankee fans out there. Obviously, we know they can't do that, but they love the start at 5-0. And as we pointed out to start the show, from the game last night against the Arizona Diamondbacks, you're still waiting. Like when Stanton and Judge wake up, hopefully the rest of the offense is still in groove. They could be a lot of fun to watch for the rest of the summer, including being at home in the Bronx and Yankee Stadium on an 88-degree day. Watch out. You're going to get some souvenirs certainly into the seats here. Souvenirs into the seats usually served up by the Detroit Tigers pitchers themselves at home. But how about this? 4-0 in the early season, 16 runs scored, 8 allowed, which is a run differential of +8, a 4-0 start for the Tigers. This was always the division, Joe, that we take a look at and say, it's probably the most up for grabs division every single year, because your teams are in the central markets here, don't spend a ton of money and usually tightly raced here. But the Detroit Tigers, that's a great start for the season here, including yesterday getting the extra innings in an interesting 5-0 win over the Mets here to get to 4-0.
Yep. No, that was impressive. Carson Kelly gets it done with a 3-run bomb there, I think, in extra innings. It was a pitcher's battle for the most part. Nothing game heading into the 10th, and then the wheels fell off. But it also helps, Donnie, that Detroit played the Sisters of the Poor so far, including the New York Mets and the Chicago White Sox here. So, that's a good sign if I'm Detroit, because that means now I'm beating the teams I should be beating. In years past, they were the team everyone anticipated to beat. Now they're beating some of those teams, and I think that's a great start for the Detroit Tigers.
It exactly is. That's a good start, and also get those good vibes early in the season, vibes that aren't so good. The Chicago White Sox, who we didn't think the vibes would be very good this year, 0-4 to start the season, a -12 run differential there. So tough times here, certainly pulling up for the Chicago White Sox. But if we're taking a look here at the American League markets, you're not going to get a lot of change, even though we have great starts here. The Houston Astros, who lost their first 4 games, came back with a great victory yesterday against Toronto. Still +360 price to take down the crown in the American League. The Yankees at a +450 price. The Rangers +650 along with the Orioles, and a long way to go. But starting out the season here, it was nice to see the Astros get off the schneid and get a victory with a no-hitter 10-0, so they can breathe a little bit easier. But talk about those 2 top teams right now, the Astros and the Yankees. Any change in your philosophy or thought process through these first 5 games, or it's a long season, things will play themselves out?
Yeah, listen, I'm going to get crazy. I mean, I think I'm more surprised with the Yankees than I am with the Astros. We knew the biggest problem for the Astros this year, despite going out and signing Hader, was that bullpen is not good. And there's a lot of question marks around that bullpen. And we saw it in action to start the year right off the bat. Couldn't hold the lead, right? To the Yankees, they led in every one of those games, Donnie, at some point, and couldn't hold the lead. And a lot of that is because of that bullpen. The Yankees start, it's how they're winning that is amazing here, because the starting pitching so far has been pretty decent without Cole at the top. The bullpen has been lights out, and you mentioned it. When they start hitting, the actual guys we're expecting to hit, they could average 8, 9, 10 runs a game, just like the Dodgers are on pace to do as well, or Atlanta. That lineup ain't even hitting yet. Wait till that happens here for the Yankees.
Exactly. Wait till that, weather turns up, get those degrees up, winds blowing out. We should have a great Major League Baseball season as long, Joe Raineri, as they keep the humidors toned down a little bit and let that ball travel. But certainly early in the season, some teams racking up runs, some teams not doing anything in the runs department. But if we flip it over to the National League, the Braves in first place in the National League East, as they just about are every single year at this time of the year and throughout the remaining parts of the summer. And if you look at the rest, the National League East is supposed to be a competitive division. The Phillies, 1-3. The Nationals, 1-3. The Mets, 0-4. The Marlins, 0-5. So maybe the Atlanta Braves, once again, running and hiding early in the season in the National League. But if you take a look at some other teams and surprises, there's no surprise the Los Angeles Dodgers are a 5-2 record here through their first 7 games, sitting in first place in the West. But how about those Pittsburgh Pirates at a perfect 5-0, followed by the Milwaukee Brewers, who went to New York and swept the Mets. They also sit at 3-0. Any surprises here to start the Major League Baseball season, or is it just, what? The Pirates playing good baseball? Who would have thought that?
Yeah, I'm surprised at how many people continue to run to a window to try to think this is the game Ohtani hits a home run. This is the game Ohtani. Give me Ohtani anytime home run. Like, well, everyone settle down here. He's not going to hit one every game. And he'll be just fine by the time the season ends. But when you look at that Braves lineup, when you look at that Dodgers lineup, I think the Central in the National League is the biggest question mark. I have always said I can't stick a fork in Milwaukee. A lot of guys on that team. I like the bullpen. I like the pitching. Devin Williams will be back in a couple of months. They'll be just fine. But ultimately, I think that's a division, Donnie. Maybe that is the biggest coin flip there is in the National League there, depending on who gets hot. Great start for Pittsburgh. But again, Donnie, who'd they beat? Like they came here to Miami and beat a team that, they're throwing relievers already in the first week because they have no starters. Everyone is hurt. So, but kudos. You got to win the games that are on the schedule, and Pittsburgh's done that so far.
Take a look at that West out here in the NL West. That's the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Padres, and Giants in that order. 5-2 for the Dodgers, the Arizona Diamondbacks, 3-2 after getting beat last night by the New York Yankees. The Padres sitting at 3-4, and then the Giants 2-3, and then the Rockies, we know, certainly going to have a tough time this season. Any surprises from a Dodgers perspective? Because I know how elite that lineup is, but they're not going to win 9 out of every 10 games. So 5-2 is a fine start for them over the season, and they're going to be hell on wheels throughout the summer because it doesn't matter who they pitch. That lineup is always going to be better on a night-to-night basis than anything that they face on the opposite side. The projection for you for the Dodgers, anything change over the first 7 games, or even though you see them with 2 losses, like, no, they're still going to be close to 100 wins, if not 105 wins when it's all said and done.
Yep. Nothing I've seen leads me to believe that, we're overestimating the ability of the Los Angeles Dodgers. But it's something you have to monitor here, right? Because already the markets are overvaluing them. There's not a whole lot of money. You're not going to be getting rich laying $3 with the LA Dodgers this season. So there will be opportunities, I think, to pounce and bet against the Dodgers. And I think it's going to all center around that starting pitching. That to me and that bullpen is the weakest part of the LA Dodgers. That lineup, they can throw a lot of lefty and righties at you there and make it a matchup nightmare for other starting pitchers.
Lining up the pennant here, Joe, in the National League, the Los Angeles Dodgers at a plus 165 price, followed by the Braves at a 250 price. Then that shelf, the Phillies at 8-1, really by themselves. Then you take a look at the Cardinals and the Diamondbacks 16-1 and 17-1 prices. We know in Major League Baseball, yes, the regular season is very important. You jockey for seeding here. But in a short series, as they line up in the playoffs, the favorites don't always advance. just taking a look at the past couple years in Major League Baseball. Having said that, the Dodgers at a crazy price. We talk about this with UConn and the Boston Celtics. Even though I do think they're the best overall team, can you bet them, Joe, at a plus 165 price?
No, absolutely not. Can't bet anything at a 165 price at this point. Yeah. Yes, there's so much unknown, Donnie. That's the problem here, right? We just don't know yet. A lot can happen. Injuries can happen. So, and listen, how much lower is it going to go, Donnie, if we're in June? It's probably going to be around the same price, is it not? It's always going to be around this price. So, let it play out a little bit. Let some guys see what goes on. We're getting more and more injuries, which is usually the case this time of year, which kind of changes the trajectory of some teams. So give it a couple of months and we'll revisit it in June and July.
It should be interesting to see the season play out. And again, sometimes you look at the regular season and say, okay, let's just get there and see what happens in the playoffs because it's all about your 1, 2, or 3 starters. But how many times have we seen this, Joe? Sometimes it's not even about your 1 or 2 starters, just like how good your bullpen is. Because a lot of these starters are spent by the time the regular season is over. You don't even have a third. You're doing bullpen starts in Major League Baseball for the World Series, as we've seen over the past couple of years. So crazy times, but you are going to lean on a great hitting lineup like the Dodgers. That's a good problem to have.